So you're sitting alone in your room, it's raining and it's pouring and it's a late Sunday night, and all of a sudden, the lights just go out. What do? What is up, guys? It is the Turtle Girl. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about what to do if the power goes out for your turtle tank, and this also kind of applies to aquariums, and also there will be some tips for reptiles. Now, I just want to qualify this by saying if you're currently watching this video because you're in a power outage and you're freaking out, just like take a deep breath, put everything back into context, and hopefully you and your loved ones are just fine, and now you can start thinking about your pets. And I have good news for you. Thankfully, turtles are extremely hardy creatures. They can withstand a lot. And if you only expect the power to be out for a couple hours, you're likely gonna be just fine. Honestly, you may not even really have to do anything. Particularly if it's a warmer day, you have very little to worry about when it comes to your turtles and other reptiles. They might not even notice that the power is out, honestly. So just don't stress as much. Now, even if you are in a bit bigger of a pickle with the power going out and you don't know how long it'll be till it can get fixed, there are some precautionary and reactive measures that you can take in order to successfully get your animals through it with minimal discomfort. So the first thing I'm gonna say is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Or should I say perhaps an ounce of preparedness. Or, if you are not on the imperial system and on the far superior, at least in my opinion, metric system, 28 grams of prevention is worth 0.45 kilograms of cure, if you want to do unit conversions that way. Just for the record, I think that the metric system makes far more sense. Why do we have to make it so difficult for ourselves when trying to convert pounds to ounces and miles, and like, why? Anyway, being prepared is going to help you a lot in the long run when it comes to power outages like these. If you can anticipate your needs, you're going to be able to take care of your animals better and not be scrambling trying to find out what you can do to help them out. So it's best to actually have like a little emergency kit prepared beforehand for your pets, for your turtle tanks, for your aquariums, that kind of thing. So I'm going to give you the items that you can use in this kit as we kind of go along the different priorities of concern as soon as the power goes out, because obviously some things are going to be more important to worry about rather than others. So for instance, it's more important to make sure your turtle tank stays warm as opposed to keeping the lights on. Very briefly, the things you're going to have to think about when the power goes out are temperature, oxygen, particularly if you have fish, filtration, and lighting. So for one, temperature. This is a big one. Because reptiles are cold-blooded, if they lose a lot of their heat really fast, it's just not a good thing. Thankfully, because turtles are aquatic, the water temperature is not going to just drop super fast. It should be able to retain some of that heat. And here are a couple of ways you can assist with insulating and heating your tank when you don't have power. The first thing would be an emergency blanket. One of these, reflective Mylar blankets. These are super duper inexpensive. A lot of times you actually have them in emergency kits if you already have one for like your home. But because this material is super reflective and also very ASMR-like, but because they're reflective, they'll be able to reflect that heat and trap that heat inside the aquarium. So literally what you would do with this, cover the entire aquarium with these blankets. They're usually pretty big. They're made to cover a human. You might want one of these blankets or two of these blankets depending on how big your tank is, and you can literally just cover the whole thing to insulate the tank and keep some of that heat trapped inside the tank. Oh, now I got air in it. I can't hold it. It looks like a burrito wrapper. Another thing that's helpful are heat pads. So heat pads can just be taped to the side of the tank and they'll transfer some of that heat into the aquarium. You can buy one specifically made for reptiles. They're like, $5 or something. You can probably buy them on Amazon. I'll link them in the description below. If you have smaller things like, those little hot hands, those can also work. They're just smaller and have less surface area, so you need more of them. But those would definitely be a beneficial addition to your kit. And then once you have your reflective emergency blanket on there, once you have the heat pads on there, you can even put more blankets on top to try to insulate the tank. The next thing is oxygen. So this is only really significant if you have fish tank mates inside the water, because the turtles actually just breathe the air. They'll come to the surface and breathe. It's not something you have to worry as much about, but especially if you have fish, you want to have a way to provide oxygen and aerate the aquarium so that the fish don't suffocate. Assuming super easy way to make sure you can do this is with a battery-powered air pump. Now this air pump is from Aquarium Co-op. Now it doesn't actually have a housing for batteries, so you might wonder, how is this a battery-powered air pump? The nice thing about these is that they're actually USB powered. So if you have something like, say, a battery pack for your phone, you could actually plug it in there into the battery pack for your phone, and that's how it would work. Or you can get a specific air pump powered by batteries, like D batteries, you know, the kind that you buy at the store. They're round, and I'm sure you guys know what batteries are. Make sure if you're using battery as a source of power, you have extra, which actually leads me to a bit of a tangent as far as another way to provide electricity to your aquarium. So obviously when the power goes out, you're not able to get power from your normal circuit, breakers, all that electric stuff that I actually don't know all the technical terms for. You basically can't plug into the wall. It's not going to work because the power's down, right? However, there are a couple of different options that you can use. So for example, generators, which are their own separate power source. You can buy these. I think they run you usually a couple $100, and it can generate that electricity. Now the thing to keep in mind with generators is that they can be kind of expensive and they can be kind of noisy, but if you have a lot of aquariums or a lot of turtles, it might be something worth looking into. There's also power inverters, which convert battery power. Another option is something like this. You may have seen smaller versions of things like this before, but this is actually a portable power station. Shout out to Jackery for sending this to me to be used in this video. Basically, it's like this giant battery that you charge, and then once it's all charged, you can use it to power multiple sources. Obviously, it's a limited energy source because it can't create its own energy. And so this is just a really nice and simple solution. They make smaller ones, and basically it can hold a certain amount of battery power. This one, I was able to run like 100 watts of power, basically everything in my aquarium as normal, for almost a full like 10 hours. So if I were to only plug in something that didn't pull a lot of power, such as my air pump and maybe my filter, it would last a lot longer. I bet you something this large could probably last a couple of days, but it's not as noisy as a generator, so that's something to think about. Now the thing to note is that anything that produces heat is going to pull a large amount of watts because it takes a lot of power to convert that energy into heat. So typically if the power goes out, you're not going to want to plug in heaters or heat lights, anything of that sort, because it is going to pull a lot of that power. It's going to drain it really fast. You're better off just trying to insulate what you have using heat pads and hand warmers, things of that sort. Just keep that in mind. So next thing is filtration. If you do have a battery or a generator you can plug it into, it's definitely helpful to keep the filter running because you want to keep that beneficial bacteria alive. But if you don't have access to those things, then just make sure you unplug your filter. Now this is because, well, for one, for some of the hang-on tank filters, they won't start automatically, and if the power comes back on in the middle of the night and you're sleeping and your tank is in the other room, you can actually fry your motor if it's trying to start the filter but there's no water in there. So unplug your filter for that reason, and also, even if you have a canister filter, still unplug it, because if the power is out for an extended duration of time, it's possible that the beneficial bacteria that's living in your filter could start to die, and then once that filter turns back on, it starts putting all of that ammonia from the dead bacteria into your tank. So just know that if the power is going to be out for a longer period of time, once it turns back on, you're going to want to clean out your filter just to make sure that there's not a bunch of ammonia ending up in your tank from dead beneficial bacteria. Now the last thing in the order of priority is lighting. Honestly, neither your turtles nor your fish are going to miss 2 days without light, 3 days without light. They can live without it. It's really low on the priority list. Save your battery power, save your generator output power, whatever. For other more important things, your turtle's not going to need light. Just wait until the power comes back on. The number one thing you just want to watch out for is temperature. So keep them warm, keep them toasty as best you can. If worst comes to worst, you yourself are a source of warmth and heat, so you can, hold your animal to keep them warm. Now some people would ask, should I feed my turtle during the power outage? I would actually say try to refrain from doing so, especially if it's cold, because they're not able to digest it properly if their ambient temperature is not warm enough and their metabolism is not up. Plus, most turtles can go a fair amount without food. I would just caution against feeding them if the temperature is significantly lower than normal. So those are my thoughts. I hope you are staying safe and that you are staying warm. If you found this video helpful, please drop me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Have a totally awesome day. Bye.